On today's show, the Nets fall short of an upset win over the Boston Celtics, and Jordi Fernandez benches Egor Demin down the stretch of another close game. I'll react to that decision and what the Nets coach had to say about it right now.
You are Locked On Nets, your daily Brooklyn Nets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Nets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the #1 sports podcast network. It's your team, the Brooklyn Nets, every single day. I'm Erik Slater, Brooklyn Nets beat reporter for ClutchPoints.com. Thank you for making me your first listen of the day. This show is 100% free on all those great platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. And on today's episode, I'm going to be reacting to the Nets' 113-99 loss to the Boston Celtics on Tuesday at Barclays Center. Brooklyn was coming off its second win of the season in this one. It was playing its best basketball of the season of late, nearly also defeating the Orlando Magic on Friday, and we're up by 4 in the last couple of minutes of that one and then collapsed. And this was another game that the Nets had a chance to win, and frankly, they were playing pretty well early. They were competing. They were forcing turnovers for a change. The defense continued to look improved. They hit a bunch of threes, and they were up by 1 with 9 minutes left. But then ultimately, the offense went ice cold down the stretch. They really just didn't have that on-ball closer. This was a game where it did look like they were missing Cam Thomas and somebody who could get a bucket down the stretch. And through that, the big story of this game is going to be Egor Demin getting benched again in the second half, getting benched again in the fourth quarter, and really continuing to play limited minutes down the stretch of close games. And this is a consistent theme across, the beginning of the season as a whole and these last 9 games it is now since Ben Surratt was removed from rotation. And, Egor has been in the starting lineup for these last 5 games. And despite that, he continues to really not play much down the stretch. You look at Egor in this game, he played 15 first half minutes and he only played 8 second half minutes. And I think that there was a really curious decision from Jordi Fernandez down the stretch of this game with how he handled Egor. I don't even think it was that curious because Egor was struggling in the second half. So he took him out because Egor was struggling and he felt like, it wasn't giving the Nets the best chance to win. But at a certain point, this continues to happen. Egor is, the starter on this team. But despite that, it seems like whenever he's struggling in the second half of these games, the leash is very short. He gets taken out, he gets benched, and he ultimately doesn't get put back in the game. That's why his fourth quarter minutes and his second half minutes have been, really limited. And I'll get into the specific numbers in a little bit. But the way it went down in this game was Egor got subbed out, midway through the third quarter. The Nets were down 7 when he went out, and then he didn't come back in until 8 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, and they were tied. So it went from down 7 to tied with Tyrese Martin and Zaire Williams and some of these other guys playing. And Egor checked back in with 8 minutes remaining in a tie game. And immediately, the Celtics went on a 7-0 run in the next minute. Egor had a drive, and he had a pretty bad miss during that run. And Jordi called the timeout after that 7-0 run and subs out Egor Demin and brings in Zaire Williams. So that was really it for Egor. He got subbed out down the stretch of another close game, and he came back in with 3 minutes left, and he played the last 3 minutes. But that was really garbage time. The Nets were down by like 12 or 14 points. All the rookies got into those points. But this is just continuing a theme of Egor's short leash in the second half. And Jordi Fernandez continually leaning in towards the veterans. First of all, Jordi Fernandez trying to continue to win games and compete. That's clear. That's priority number 1. Rookie development, rookie minutes, all of that is taking a back seat during this span. And Egor's leash continues to be very short in some of these moments. And Egor played well in the first half of this one. You look at it, he had 12 points. He was 4 of 5 from the field, 4 of 4 from 3. Had 3 assists and 1 turnover, and was a plus 12 in the first half and 15 first half minutes. And then in the second half, it was a real struggle. Like, Egor looked really bad in the second half, and that is why Jordi Fernandez removed him from this game. In the second half, Egor was 0 of 5 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. He had 1 assist and 3 turnovers, and he was a minus 16. So, if you're a coach that's trying to win a game, if you're trying to compete, if you're trying to put the team in the best position to do some of those things, subbing Egor out after that 7-0 run and going in another direction, like, that does make sense. And that is going to give this Nets team the best chance to win. But at the end of the day, like, we keep talking about this with Egor, and at a certain point, like, obviously draft position is priority number one in this season, but rookie development is also priority number one. If not a 1A, it's a 1B. And despite Egor not giving the Nets the best chance to win in some of these situations and some of these games down the stretch, at a certain point, you're going to have to let him play through some struggles. And the leash just can't be this short, in my opinion. I mean, this is just continually happening. Like, Egor plays in the second half a little bit. He gets in for a few minutes. There's some kind of mistake. Sometimes there's not even another mistake. And Jordi just defaults to going with the veterans like Tyrese Martin, like Zaire Williams, like whoever, who are giving the Nets a better chance to win in some of these circumstances. But at the end of the day, like, I keep saying this, we know what the season is about. The season is about rookie development. And, you look at Egor's minutes, and over his last 9 games, and that's since Ben Saraf was out of the lineup, and Egor's been, I think, a starter for 5 or 6 of those games. He's playing 9.5 minutes per game in the second half, and he's playing 4.2 minutes per game in fourth quarters. That is the fewest of any full-time member of the Nets rotation. I'll say that again. Over the last 9 games, Egor is playing 4.2 minutes per game in fourth quarters. Fewest of any full-time rotation member. And for a player who is your lottery pick, he is your starting point guard right now, that just can't be the case. Like, that's not productive for him. I know that, there's a debate, I guess, you could have about whether or not it's beneficial to play a player through struggles when they're struggling. And we asked Jordi Fernandez about this after the game. I asked him, is it like, what is the balance between that? Like, what mistakes are mistakes that warrant pulling a guy? Also, when is it beneficial to let a rookie like this play through some struggles, or when does that become counterproductive if you're leaving him out there while he's struggling? And, Jordi, he gave us a non-answer. He said, like, I'm not really seeing struggles. I'm happy with what they're doing. But he did say at the end of the answer that, I'm going to continue to coach these guys. And at times I'm going to do what I can to, put us in the best position to win and put us in the best position to compete. And that is the answer right now. Like, that is the takeaway from how Jordi Fernandez is handling this, is he's trying to put the Nets in the best position to compete in these games, to win these games. And I've said, like, I understand why he's doing that. We're 14 games into the season. Even in a tanking season, you have to put your best foot forward to try to win games and do some of those things. But at the end of the day, like, you need to also prioritize rookie development, and you need to play this guy who is your top lottery pick. You need to leave him in, get some of those high leverage moments. And even if he's struggling, you need to leave him out there and let him play in some of those moments and gain that experience and work through those struggles. And especially when, like, in the fourth quarter of this game, sure, they went on a run after Egor checked in the game, but that wasn't all Egor's fault. Like, he had a bad play or two during that run, but you look at it, and that's where ice cold as a team in the fourth quarter. And the player that Jordi brought in for Egor when he, subbed him out after that fourth quarter run, it was Zaire Williams, who, like, he was a +7 in the second half, but Zaire was 4 of 11 in this game. He was 2 of 7 from 3. He wasn't having a good game by any means. So if you're subbing Egor out, and, I understand it, like I said, like, you're trying to put your team in a better position to win. If you had another, like, high-level ball handler that you were bringing in the game for him, I could live with that, or I'd understand that at least. But in this case, like, you say you're trying to win or put your team in the best position to compete. You're bringing in Zaire Williams for him, who's not even a ball handler, isn't doing much in the end, isn't going to do much in the final 7 minutes of a game from an on-ball creation standpoint, which is what the Nets were lacking. So I just really don't understand why you don't let Egor play through some struggles there. I understand what Jordi's reasoning is, but I just disagree with it. Like, I said it on my podcast yesterday, I'm not going crazy about, Egor playing 21 minutes a game, this season versus 25 or 26 minutes per game. But it's just what I've taken issue with was kind of the in-game decisions and the leash of some of it. And it feels like in these games when when Egor's struggling, Jordi has a really short leash on him, and he's pulled pretty quickly in a lot of situations. And I think, for this guy, you need to give him some minutes, especially in these high leverage moments. Like, we're going to see Egor, you're going to see that benefit him if you play him down the stretch of some of these high leverage moments. You give him some of that experience early. And we have seen him make some big shots. Like, we saw him make a big shot in that Cavs game. We saw him make a big shot during the Magic loss in the fourth quarter, after which he was subbed out. So I just think at a certain point, you got to let these rookies play through some struggles. And I understand you're trying to put the team in the best position to win and keep the locker room bought in and all that. But the season is about rookie development. Ultimately, regardless of what you do, you're not winning many of these games. Like, these second half or these fourth quarter rotation decisions, I don't think that bringing Zaire Williams in the game was going to put the Nets into a position where they were breaking out of the offensive rut that they found themselves in. So Egor, I think, should be playing more fourth quarter minutes. I think he should be playing more second half minutes. And I think that leash is going to have to get a little longer, and Jordi's going to have to reevaluate how he's going about some of those things. But Egor Demin did turn in a pretty high-level first half in this one. And then some of the areas where, he struggles that are his deficiencies started becoming glaring as the game progressed. So how did I feel about his overall performance, and how am I feeling about his overall performance of late over the last few games since coming into the starting lineup? I'll get into all that when I continue Locked On Nets after a quick break. When Skims announced they were making underwear for men, the reaction made perfect sense. People have been talking about Skims comfort for years. Most guys, though, stick to whatever they've been buying since college. The same fits, the same waistbands that roll, and a whole lot of settling. Skims Men changes that. It's one upgrade, and it's why everyone has been talking. Guys, I received my Skims underwear, and I got the hype immediately. They're designed to feel good, fit right, and actually stay put. No slipping, no sagging, no adjusting. Just genuinely great underwear that makes you feel confident and comfortable. Guys, I tried Skims Stretch 5-inch boxer brief, and what stood out right away was the fit and fabric. Soft, supportive, and comfortable all day. They don't ride up, they don't lose their shape, and they hit exactly where they're supposed to on the thigh. Whether you're working, traveling, working out, or just hanging out at home, these feel better than anything else that you've used before. Guys, shop Skims Men's now at skims.com. And when you place your order, choose podcast in the post-purchase survey and select our show from the drop-down menu to let them know we sang you. Plus, the Skims holiday shop is open. So if you're looking for the perfect gift this season, Skims has got you covered. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Coming back from the break on today's Locked On Nets episode, talking about Brooklyn's loss to the Boston Celtics at Barclays Center on Tuesday, 113-99, and focusing in more on Egor Demin's performance in this one. And this was a game where I think you saw a lot of Egor's strengths were accentuated, mainly the three-point shooting, really only the three-point shooting, and a lot of his weaknesses, the on-ball creation, his driving, his ball handling, his offensive initiation. Some of those were exposed, particularly in the second half of this game and down the stretch. But talking about the first half, Egor, his three-point shooting has gotten back on track. He had that stretch where he was 3 for 20 over, 4 or 5 games or something like that. And since then, he's really come back into his own. And I think he's 14 of 29 over his last 6 games. So Egor has been shooting the ball at a really high level. And I think you saw in this first half of this game, him do it in a variety of ways. Like we saw him punish Boston's defense in the drop coverage, which was really nice to see. There were 2 pick and roll reps where Egor came off a screen. I think it was Luka Garza was in the drop and hanging back pretty far, and Egor pulled up from a few feet behind the three-point line. He banged 2 pull-up threes. That's really nice to see. We saw him, a corner catch and shoot 3 that he drilled. He's been hot from that spot this season, and also a pull-up in transition where he kind of stopped, noticed that he had a lot of room, and hit that one off the dribble. So Egor's three-point shooting has been a resounding positive, and you look at his stats overall over these last 6 games it is now that he's been a starter. He's at 9.8 points, 3.0 rebounds, 4.3 assists, 1.8 turnovers, 41% from the field, and 44% from 3. So 44% from 3 in those games. For the season, he's just a smidge below 40% on high volume. So the three-point shooting, which I've said, ad nauseum, was a major concern entering this season and was no guarantee that he was going to be a high-level three-point shooter. Obviously, the Nets were confident about that. But a lot of draft analysts, a lot of fans, myself, had serious questions about what the three-point shooting was going to look like because he shot only 27% at BYU, albeit on very high volume. But he has answered all of those questions in a big way. He's quelled all of those concerns in a big way. And that's huge for a player where I've said, with Egor's size, with Egor's passing ability, with the ball handling ability that he does have at 6'9", while it's not at a high level, he can do some things adequately. You add the three-point shooting, and I really feel good about where that's going to leave him from a floor perspective, because worst case scenario, you have this player who can be this guy who maybe slides to the wing and is this connective playmaker who can do some ancillary ball handling, ancillary shot creation and playmaking, and can also be a floor spacer on or off the ball. So it really gives Egor that positional versatility, and with his size, his measurables, some of the ancillary skills he does have, that should lend itself to a high floor. Now, I've continuously said the ceiling is going to be dependent on Yegor's ability to develop his on-ball game and some of those skills. And we've seen flashes, but it's clear that it's a big work in progress. Like, there is a long way to go in terms of the on-ball creation, in terms of the driving. Yegor is still very three-point heavy, three-point reliant offensively. We have seen him start to get more aggressive in terms of twos like that. It has been trending that way, but it could really only go that way. It can only go up because Yegor, he took 0 2-point field goals through his first 5 games. So it's gotten better, but still, you see on the drives to the basket, in this one, particularly in this game, he's just pretty unsure of himself when he's going to the basket. Like, there's not a lot of physicality. If you're talking about a drive where you've seen him get downhill, initiate contact, and really do anything like confidently or forceful along those lines, we haven't really seen it. All of his takes have been, he's gotten downhill and gotten open layups, or, when there's been a contest around him, it's like finger rolls, it's fading. And this one, we saw a couple of really awkward takes where he missed really badly at the rim. So that stuff is a work in progress. The offensive initiation is a work in progress. We saw some turnovers in this one near half court. It seems like there's like one of those every game where Yegor either he carried in this one on one of them, or he loses the ball, or he gets stripped, or it's something along those lines. Like, that's going to happen. That was the book on him in college, was pressure him, get up into him. He's the 6'9" guy. His dribble's a little bit high. It's not the tightest. He's going to struggle with some of that stuff. So the three-point shooting, it continues to look really good. The on-ball creation, the offensive initiation, the driving, all of that stuff, it has a ways to go, but that is to be expected. And if you look at it overall with Yegor, offensively, the defense has a long way to go also. But just overall, where he's at, since coming into the starting lineup for this Nets team, like I said, he's near 10 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, less than 2 turnovers, 41% from the field, 44% from 3. Like, if you told me those numbers for Yegor as a starter before the season, I would say, like, that's pretty good. And I think that Nets fans should come away really encouraged by that. And we know that Yegor, going into this, we knew that he was a raw prospect. I'll keep saying it. He's not Cooper Flagg. He wasn't Dylan Harper. He wasn't even VJ Edgecombe or whatever one of these guys you want to say, Jeremiah Fears. There was going to be a lot more room for development with that. And you hope with his size, with his passing ability, with the shooting come around, all those things, that there is some more upside. But he's raw. It's going to take some time. And overall, like in this game, I think you saw, the strengths really play early in the game. You saw the weaknesses get a little bit exposed, but that is to be expected. And if you take a step back and you evaluate where Yegor's at overall, I think that his performance has been encouraging. And I think that he's a little bit ahead of where a lot of people thought that he might have been at this point. So that's all positive. And I think that, as we see Yegor move forward, I think you're going to have to see, as I said in the top, you're going to have to see the leash with him get a little bit longer. You're going to want to see him given the opportunity to play through some struggles and play in some high leverage moments in some of these fourth quarter situations. So that's what I'm seeing with Yegor. And I think that there's a lot to be excited about there. But also in this game, we saw Michael Porter Jr. continuing the best stretch of his career and really excelling in this high usage role that he's playing with the Nets. We also saw some defensive improvements from the Nets with this one that are allowing them to compete with some of these teams over the last few games. So I'll get into all that, what I think about that when I close out Locked On Nets after a quick break. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's SAD, software as a service. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Guys, what I love about Rippling is how it removes the bottlenecks and busy work that slows teams down. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNBA for 6 months free. All right, coming back from the break, closing out today's Locked On Nets episode, talking about Brooklyn's 113-99 loss to the Boston Celtics on Tuesday. And Michael Porter Jr. continues to play some very high-level basketball for this Nets team. You look at MPJ in this one. He had 25 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover. Could have had some more assists. He had a few opportunities that were blown by teammates, and he had a bunch of hockey assists in the first half of this one. So All of that, as I said, 25.6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover, 8 of 16 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3, and 5 of 5 from the free throw line. And I've talked about MPJ on the last couple episodes, but it really can't be, understated or glossed over how well MPJ is playing right now. I had some criticisms of him early in the season. There were a few games that were frankly unserious on both ends of the floor, but of late, over these last 6-7 games, he is playing at an extremely high level and frankly, an all-star level. I mean, the Nets aren't winning, so he's never going to be in that conversation. But you look at it, over his last 6 appearances entering this game, MPJ was at 27.3 points and 3.7 assists on 48, 36, 88 shooting splits. And I said today, 25, 6, and 2 with only 1 turnover, and he's 8 of 16 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3, 5 of 5 from the free throw line. So the efficiency on this, career high volume, this career high usage that he's posting, over 20% usage, first time in his career he's even close to that. He's doing it efficiently, and that's really impressive. And I think that the decision-making was really highlighted in this one. Like we talked about MPJ, he's been working a lot, obviously, off the ball. He's finding success with these off-ball actions in terms of, obviously, the zoom actions, the pin downs that he comes off of, curling off into these 3-point shots that he is shooting at. He's shooting at an extremely high level on those, but also the backdoor cuts he's finding, the high-low actions he's finding. And in this one, the decision-making, I think you're just seeing MPJ consistently make the right play. Is he going to take some bad shots? Sure. He took some bad shots in this one. He hit some of them, but that's just that comes with the territory when you're playing for a Nets team that's lacking the shot creation that they're lacking right now. He's going to have to take some of those shots. But the decision-making in terms of, getting downhill, in terms of making the right play, in terms of finding his teammates and putting them in the right positions, I think that he's doing that at a really high level. And I think you just continue to see, each game, I feel like we're just seeing MPJ, fit more into this role, get more serious in this role, offensively and defensively, improving on both ends. And he's really putting the Nets in a position to compete in a lot of these games. You look at these last 3 games, that Orlando Magic game, he kept the Nets in that game and really kept them in the lead up until down the stretch. And then he really struggled in the fourth quarter, but he kept them in that one. He obviously played the biggest role in them winning that Wizards game. And then this game that the Nets were winning by 1 with 9 minutes left against the Celtics, he was the biggest reason that they were in this game. So MPJ's play is keeping the Nets in this game and in these games, and is giving them the ability to compete. Another thing, and I'm going to close it out with this, that's giving the Nets the ability to compete in these last 3 games, is their defense. Their defense obviously was at a historically bad level. It's still the worst in the league. But since Cam Thomas went out of the lineup, we're seeing the Nets, post a significantly better defense. And that's not saying too much. They only could go up, but the Nets were dead last in defense by a large margin. And I think that they're 22 or something around there since Cam Thomas came out of the rotation with that hamstring injury. And MPJ is playing better defensively during that stretch, or at least trying more defensively. And I think we're seeing the Nets ramp up the intensity, ramp up the aggressiveness, or, at least execute the aggressiveness, because they've been aggressive the whole time. But I think you're seeing them gain a little bit better understanding about positioning, about rotations, about how they're doing some of this stuff in the aggressive coverage that they are playing. And we saw them switch a little bit more in this one, more than they have in any other game this season. And they really have been pretty disruptive. Over these last 3 games, the Nets are forcing 17 turnovers per game. That's, way more than they were prior to that. And you look at this game, they forced 12 turnovers in the first half, and they scored 22 fast break points in the first half of this game. That was their 6th most in any half since the tracking era began, which is 1996-97. And you look at that is just in a completely different universe or stratosphere from what the Nets were doing before this game. I said 22 fast break points in the first half of this one. They only scored 2 in the second half with some of their offensive struggles. But the Nets were averaging 8.6 fast break points per game entering this one. So to score 22 fast break points in the first half of this one, that, along with MPJ's offensive performance and his shot making, kept the Nets in this game and gave them the ability to have a lead down the stretch, as it did in the Orlando game and as it did in the Washington game. So you're seeing the Nets, between MPJ, between the improved defense, they're starting to look a little bit more competitive. Are they going to win a lot of games? No. I think this game was a good case study for how this stuff is going to go against teams that have some good players and have some closers like a Jaylen Brown or a Peyton Pritchard or a Franz Wagner. Pretty much anybody that's not the Wizards or a team that bad. The Nets might be able to compete, but down the stretch when they need some buckets, need some on-ball creation, that's when they're going to miss Cam Thomas, and they're just going to, overall, whether they have Cam Thomas or not, they're just a team that's extremely lacking in shot creation. So I think this defense, this MPJ ascension is going to help them compete, but I think that they're going to still struggle to close out a lot of these games because of their offensive limitations. But that's all I got for today's Locked On Nets episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it and hope you guys enjoyed the analysis. If you guys do not already, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Nets on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, whether Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you enjoy the content, take a second right now, smash that like button, leave a comment, leave a 5-star review. Anything you can do to engage is much appreciated. But the Nets got a couple days off, and then they're going to be back in Boston on Friday for a rematch with the Celtics. So I'll have coverage of all that and more when I'm back tomorrow talking more Brooklyn Nets basketball.